afternoon, Yuba Sutter. This is the Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight, and you're listening to us live at Mount Huth, 1410 AM, The Patriot.
104.3 FM.
Yep, and we are down a couple of people, but we have some amazing replacements.
We have relief.
Yep, Santos Vigil.
Yes, ma'am.
Wiki Man.
Present.
The legend.
The legend is here.
In his own mind. I'll finish that for you.
No, he's going to keep us on the tracks today.
Gonna try.
Keep us in our own lane.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, we have our sheriff candidate for Sutter County, Garamendi Barnes.
Good afternoon.
So happy to have you here.
Thank you.
It's been a while. Tom?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, wake up.
I'm wide awake.
Before
I'm
we
happy
get
to be here.
So I think it's important to point out today that Tammy and Jason are not here. They have earned a very well-deserved break, and today is Jason's birthday. Did you know that?
Nice.
I did not know that. No.
Okay, who wants to lead?
Happy birthday
gonna
to
sing happy
you.
Okay, no. And the listening audience doesn't need to hear us sing.
So, happy birthday, Jason. I'm glad to hear that. You got a little older.
Yeah. Got some R&R, well-deserved,
Yep.
Yeah.
after the beating you took down on Saturday morning.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
We'll get into that. He may call in and enlighten us.
But let's talk to Garamendi Barnes, who we've only got him for a short time because his Sunday afternoons are sacred time for his walking, right?
Yeah, and many other things. As of late, yeah, we're pretty busy.
It's interesting because we were talking to Brandon about what a normal week looks like for him during this campaign. Before we get into that, let's let you introduce yourself. You haven't been here since before the primary.
Correct.
So take it away.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm happy to be here, and thank you guys for having me. And lady, thank you. So as a longtime Sutter County resident, I've lived over there for, just around 20 plus years. But I've always made my living across the river here in Yuba County, where I've worked at the Yuba County Sheriff's Department for 23 years now. September actually marks my 23rd year. And all of my career, I've kind of spent, learning every possible assignment that I could within my own department, and always looking to better myself and looking for opportunities to improve my education. And, as I got older, I started looking at, what is all this leading to? And I've had some pretty tremendous experiences. And for those that know my resume, I've gone to the FBI National Academy. I've gone to California's Post Command College, which deals with strategic planning and basically shows you how to run an organization. But I realized after completing some of those things that there had to be a purpose behind all that. And so I saw an opportunity in the county where I live, and I decided to run for sheriff there. And it's been a little over a year now. We announced in June of 2017. So the primary was a year, and we were the top in the polls at that point and continued on, and just very blessed and still working hard and hoping to be successful here come November.
What is a little bit about you personally? What is your upbringing, and what is your moral code?
Moral code: treat others like you want to be treated. That's the golden rule, right? Absolutely. But I grew up not too far from here, down in Lincoln, home of the Fighting Zebras. I graduated what seems like a very, very long time ago, back in 1990, and so had a real typical upbringing in what was a rural kind of community. The thing that I like about living in Live Oak now is it reminds me of Lincoln back when I actually grew up there. It's just that small little town with 2 stoplights and great people and a community pool, and everybody gathers around on Friday nights to go to football games, and it's that same kind of atmosphere in Live Oak. And so it's one of the things that really I just enjoy about being part of that community and living up there. I was married for the better part of about 18 years and then went through a divorce. It was, nothing spectacular. We just grew apart, and, I was busy and throwing myself into work a lot and accomplishing a lot of my work-related goals. And so we separated. We're focused on raising the kids and getting my daughter through high school at that point. And so we still have a good relationship as it pertains to raising our children and communicating. A little over 3 years ago, I met Jen, who is my current wife, and Liz and I were talking just a little bit before. And this first year, we actually got married September of last year. September 9th marked our anniversary, and so we have spent the first year of our marriage campaigning. So you can imagine what that's like, but it also speaks to what a special lady she is, and she is truly the love of my life. She's actually at home right now working on the books, and so we are truly a team in that regard, and she supports me 100%. She actually comes from a law enforcement family background. Her grandfather was the first canine officer in Yuba County, and so she's got another uncle that was a Yuba County undersheriff, and another uncle that was a Yuba County jail commander. And so she understands this profession, and she's been able to support me and be a good sounding board for me, and she's just been amazing. So we have, collectively, we have 4 kids. I have a son that's 25 and a daughter that's 20. My 2 stepdaughters are 20 and 15, and so my daughter, my 2 stepdaughters, and my wife, we all live, in the same house, and so it's me and 4 ladies.
Whoa.
Yeah, right? People will tell me, they said, well, if you can live in a house with 4 ladies, you can run a sheriff's department. And I said, please make no mistake about it. They just let me live there. So I just try to be in charge outside of the house, and I give Jen control inside the house, and she does an exceptional job of keeping things running.
She's a good girl.
Absolutely.
I think that anybody that has been paying attention knows about your plan of action and what you hope to do. I know that you have been attending some of the Deputy Sheriff Association members at the Board of Supervisors meetings.
Correct.
Which is really, really impressive. Proud of you for doing that. You also have a lot of endorsements.
Okay. Yes, I do.
Do you care to go over some of those endorsements?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. So after the primary, leading into the primary, I had endorsements from, I believe it was like 15 active sheriffs here in California. And the significance of that is, reaching out and establishing those relationships. And I caught a little bit of criticism because they were saying, well, these aren't people from our community. But you have to look at the big picture. And I feel that I'm a big picture kind of guy, and I'm always looking for opportunity. And, one of the benefits of having those relationships with people who are in, charge of their law enforcement in other counties is, when you become sheriff, you become part of the State Sheriff's Association. And so there are different committees, different boards, and you have an opportunity to work and try to influence change at the state level. When we went through the SB 54 thing, a lot of times you would see in the headlines that the State Sheriff's Association is opposed to this. And they're fighting behind the scenes to, try to make this happen or try to get it restructured. And so if we have opportunities to, be an advocate for our community and try to bring more resources here, more funding for certain programs, then I have to do that. And so developing those relationships early on is a big bonus. Since the primary, things have gotten a little bit more supportive here locally. So our new sheriff here in Yuba County is Wendell Anderson, and he has endorsed me. I've known Wendell for the better part of 20 years. We've worked together. We were on SWAT together. We will have and probably continue to have a great working relationship moving forward if I'm elected as the Sutter County Sheriff.
Not if.
When.
When.
Okay. Well, thank you for the vote of confidence there. I appreciate that. I try to stay humble and I try to stay in my lane and stay focused, but I do appreciate it. So, Wendell and I are going to have a great working relationship. We'll be able to get a hold of each other, all hours of the day and bounce problems off each other, much like we do now. Additionally, Sheriff Parker came out and publicly endorsed me. He is the current Sutter County Sheriff, and he offered me his support after Jeff Pierce wasn't successful in moving forward with the election. Jeff Pierce has also given me his endorsement, and, being the third candidate in the race, I think it's very important. Jeff is the undersheriff at Sutter County Sheriff's Department, and both he and Sheriff Parker are recognizing that they believe that I am the right person to take over that organization and move it forward if they're not going to. And so I'm just very humbled by Jeff's support. We communicate almost weekly. He gives me information on certain things that are transpiring in the department. So just very thankful for both their support. Additionally, in addition to that, I got the endorsement of our Deputy Sheriff's Association in Sutter County. So I think that's really important as well. The men and women that work there, they do a phenomenal job day in and day out. I think, Liz, you were kind of sharing a story with me of an experience you just had recently with one of them. Great people, and I've actually got to spend some more time with them here in the last couple of weeks, and developing those relationships, and just very honored that they've spoken up publicly and said that they believe I should be their next sheriff as well. So things are really trending in the right direction, and I'm just very excited about the opportunity and what's to come.
Well, you're going to have a job ahead of you because, like you were talking about earlier, people leave here, and they leave apparently because the benefits aren't as good, or maybe it's the leadership. I understand that Sheriff Parker's had some medical problems here in the last few years, and he's not all on the job like he used to be. And of course, he's getting older, like all of us. We're all on that same train. What do you? How are you going to overcome these problems? I mean, leadership's going to be part of it.
Right, exactly. And I think that, from that standpoint, I always kind of put my money where my mouth is, and I'm out and I'm engaged in the community. And so just as an example, yesterday they had the Celebration of Heroes over at the Crossroads Church. The Sheriff's Department was represented there. They had their K-9 units out. They had their boat patrol out, other officers that were there just present. I was actually out there with the men and women of the Sheriff's Department and just spending some time with them and getting to know them and watching their K-9 demo. And they were kind of joking. They were saying, well, next year when you come out, you're going to have to be in uniform, and it's going to be hot because you'll be all dressed in black. And I said, well, what makes you think I'm not going to hang out with the boat patrol people and wear shorts? And so, but it's nice that they can rib me a little bit. It means that they're starting to get comfortable with me. And so it's important to have that relationship and let them see that I'm going to be engaged and I'm going to be involved with them, and they're not going to be out there by themselves representing the Sheriff's Department. I'm going to be out there on the front lines with them and leading, right out front where I should be. And so I think that'll be a big change. But in addition to that, you mentioned some of the budget challenges, and I had been an advocate leading into the primary of just publicly saying, hey, they need to get a fair wage that's comparable to what the surrounding agencies are getting. And when you're kind of in the fog of war a little bit, you don't always think real clearly. But as things settled down and we got through the primary and I had a little bit more time to reflect on some things, I thought, man, I don't need to wait until I'm sheriff to be an advocate for them. And so I actually went before the board at one of the Board of Supervisors meetings and very politely just asked that they engage in getting this contract resolved so that whoever our next sheriff is will come in and be able to work on recruitment and retention and stabilize things a little bit so we can start working on some of the problems we have in our community. Since then, the DSA has decided to, on two separate occasions, go themselves and speak before the board. And both times I was there. I hung out in the back. I tried not to, be the center of attention because they deserved their opportunity to say what they needed to say. And so I stood in the back and just offered my support. So again, I think they're seeing that. They know that we're in this together and that what they're trying to accomplish, I want to see them accomplish because it just makes us all better as a department in the end, and we can start focusing on issues.
Now, the DSA is the Deputy Sheriff's Association?
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Deputy Sheriff's Association.
So, when it comes to the finances, okay, because we hear that all the time, and matter of fact, I've heard it my whole life, that we need to keep giving more money to police and fire, okay? And the situation where you have the guys over in this town are making more than the guys in this town, okay? That's a never-ending circle. We have the same issue in our business,
correct?
Okay, and we see that we have to give raises and we have to raise prices. But the bottom line is this: it's always about raising prices, because in the end, it's the general public that pays for it. So, and like when it comes to building a house, it's getting higher and higher and higher and higher, okay? And then meanwhile, the cost of food is getting higher and higher and higher and higher. So we're kind of stuck in a round robin there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I absolutely do.
So, and there's always going to be another city or another county that's got more money than you do. And eventually it has to stabilize, or where do we go? I mean, we hear the Gridley Police Chief is making $337,000 a year. I mean, I computed that out to about $28,000 a month, and none of that is reflected. I mean, did you guys get that? $28,000 a month.
That's what I take home in about a year if I really
Yeah.
get out and hustle now that I'm not working all the time.
Yeah. So, somewhere along the line, that has to stabilize to a point. I mean, that's what I'm looking at.
I would agree with that.
And then the pension program, is out of control also. Like I think Liz was saying a couple weeks ago or last week, they just hired a county, and I'm not just picking on the sheriff's department, but they hired a county human resource officer. Okay, that's what they like to call people nowadays, human resource officer. Okay, they always got this little nice niche name for dealing with people. So they started her with 12 weeks paid vacation.
112 hours.
112 hours. Oh, I thought you
Thanks.
said 12 weeks.
Yeah. If I did, I was remiss.
Oh, okay.
112 hours.
So I haven't calculated that out.
It's about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Oh, 3 weeks. Boy, for some reason I thought you said 12 weeks. So I'm wrong on that. But still, 3 weeks paid vacation ain't too shabby. When I started in the bread business years ago, we had to work a year. We actually had to work before we got our vacation.
What a concept.
Okay. Then after that anniversary date, we got a week. Then we had to work from 2 years to 5 before we would get 2 weeks. And then it escalated as, time went on.
Correct.
Finally, in the end, after 25 years, you could get 5 weeks vacation. So what I'm saying is there needs to be some comparison, too, to the private sector.
Yes.
Because it's out of control. And when it comes to the pension program getting near 90%, I mean, that's just unbelievable. So,
So, Tom, did you know that at least the human resources director, which I'm sure she's a very nice lady, very good at her job, there's a difference between her and our Deputy Sheriff's Association, and that is that she has a contract. I've lost track of the days, but I think it's north of 80 days that our sheriffs, they don't have a contract.
yeah.
That's just,
Well,
So-
that's a failure of the Board of Supervisors.
Personally, I don't worry about that too much, whether they have a contract or not. I mean, from my perspective, okay, because it's just like, you hear the threats out there, we're going to shut down the government. I say, shut it down. Let's see what happens. Okay? So I don't worry about that stuff too much. But anyway, I wanted to get Brandon's idea on where do we stop this round robin that keeps, it's the stairway to heaven. That's what I'm going to call
Bust the unions.
Well, I think, like anything else, I mean, the market dictates wages, right? And so if you're, as an example, if you're a contractor and the housing market's good and you're building lots of houses, the price of houses are probably going to go up. When you go through a recession like we just had, it's going to dip down. And that's what happened. I mean, there were, as I understand it, there were no raises for several years there. We're at a point now where the economy is starting to rebound. Surrounding agencies have gotten some pay bumps, but Sutter County has not stayed even with that. And so, as an example, a Yuba County officer who's fresh out of the academy starts out at $800 more a month than a Sutter County deputy. I mean, that's a pretty big disparity when you're trying to take care of your family. We were talking, some of the officers are actually going over to Yolo County into the Woodland area because they're making $1,000 more a month. Completely their prerogative, to do that. But at the same time, when they spend 3 to 5 years here and we're paying for their training, and then they go off and they have successful careers in other communities, we would like to be able to keep that here and keep that experience level here so that, we have good officers. Liz was sharing a story with me, and I don't know if you want to share it on the radio, but she had an interaction with an officer that was positive, but that officer is is, as they say, in the queue to go to another agency because of wages.
Yeah, it
Well-
broke my heart.
That is a reasonable expectation. So we're not
Well, now,
being unreasonable as far as we understand the situation. And it is what it is. You are facing that.
Yeah, and I don't
situation.
think, based on my interactions, I don't want to speak for the Deputy Sheriff's Association. I think they just want something that's fair, and they want to see their contract resolved. The men and women that work there, that continue to work there, it's because they're vested in this community and they like living here, and their families have been here for generations. We should be taking care of those people, but we should also have the ability to recruit good officers and be the gold standard for the Yuba Sutter area. And, I think leadership and good direction and good vision is a part of that equation, but pay is as well. And, we just need to be able to recognize that. And, but it's a whole package. And I'm hoping to take care of the leadership, the vision, the direction portion of it. I have no control over, the wages, but certainly I understand their position. I've sat through those negotiations myself over the years, and I'd like to see them have a contract, and I'd like to see it resolved before, if I'm blessed enough to take office, I'd like to see it resolved before then, so we don't have to worry about that, and we can focus on moving forward and implementing my plan and just getting back to providing a good quality of service for our community.
so having sat through those private closed sessions, I think it'd be wise to open those sessions to the public, and maybe some public person might come in and suggest that, if you're going to get all your schooling here, if you're going to use our resources, our local community resources to achieve the goals you want to achieve and move forward in your profession, maybe you ought to have something in your contract that makes you stick around for a certain amount
They
of
don't
years.
have a contract.
Well,
Yeah, so
yeah.
maybe a contract is needed. Something along that line. Now, I hate to even think about this, but that they're to put a cap, or to make it uniform throughout the whole state. That would resolve a lot of the problems, wouldn't it?
That would be
Oh,
tough
you're-
based on the cost of living. Though.
You're a
It's-
socialist. huh?
Yes,
it's
it is.
It's a lot more to rent an apartment in San Francisco than it is here in the Yuba Sutter
Right.
area, and so
Yeah.
that would be the challenge.
So, so I'm gonna give you a pass on all that stuff, but on the retirement, man, it's way out of shape, and that's just the
Not
facts
just
of the
here.
case.
Yeah.
Not just
Yeah.
here.
No, I'm not. I'm not talking to just here. Here's how I talk. All right, if the shoe fits, wear it. All right, if you're on the receiving end, man, if the shoe fits, wear it, and if you're not, then you don't have to wear it. But the retirement program is huge underfunded. Okay, and we've been hearing about it for years. And I've been, running around in this political process for a few years now. Probably not as long as you, Liz, but I've learned a lot in the process. And to fund a 90% retirement or 95%, that is way out of line compared to the private sector. Most people in the private sector they'll be lucky to get 25, 35, 40%.
Lucky to get anything at all.
Yeah.
Well, and when
So-
we have our top level government where they are not contributing anything to their PERS, not anything.
Yeah. So
Oh, that again falls on whoever's making that decision, whoever's hiring them. Sutter County and Yuba County, both, that would be Board of Supervisors.
So anyway, that's a bigger issue than you're able to deal with, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
just got to
correct.
deal with the results of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my focus is, I understand your concerns, and I have the same concerns. It's no different than Social Security. I mean, I want to know that money is going to be there when I retire, and that I can provide for myself and have a good living without having to work until I'm in, my 70s. I understand that. My focus has got to be public safety, and getting this department back on track and providing a quality level of service to the people that we serve.
Now, can you give us an idea? Okay, what are your daily crimes that you're dealing with? I mean, because you say that you're protecting us and keeping us safe.
We're coming down to the bottom of the half hour, and we're getting the signal from
Oh, okay. So we're gonna have
Santos
to take a
that
break.
will.
Oh,
Yep.
no.
We'll get that when we come.
Attention Yuba City voters. In just a few short years, the City Council has voted to increase our water, sewer, and garbage bills, and even started discussion on a sales tax increase. It's an out-of-control money grab. I'm Dave Schaupp, a veteran, small business owner, and community volunteer, and I'm running for Yuba City Council. As a local resident for over 30 years, I'm the CEO of Shaw & Associates and an expert in wealth management, taxes, and accounting. I was voted Yuba Sutter's best financial advisor, and my firm was named the 2017 Small Business of the Year. As your councilman, I will move funds from administration to public safety and road repairs. I'll revisit the water and garbage rate increases, and I'll stop the dump because residents do not want a transfer station in the middle of town. And I will fight to stop giving pensions to council members. Remember, vote Dave Schaupp for Yuba City Council. Proudly paid for by Dave Schaupp for Yuba City Council in 2018.
You, for the very first time, had true transparency in government. If I'm elected to the board, and I expect that I will, it'd be my intention that I will be very much involved in the day-to-day operations of the county to a larger degree than I have been even as a watchdog. So let me assure you, the public will know more about their government than they do today.
Okay.
Okay, welcome back. Let's finish up your thoughts.
Back already?
Yeah, we're back.
Wow.
Yep. Put your headset on, man. Get with the program.
Okay, I thought we were on a 5-minute break.
We're
That's
we're
top
yeah.
of the hour.
Man, I need a union representative here.
So let's get back to what you were asking Brandon.
Oh, yeah. Well, basically, I want to find out, because a lot of us don't hear it or see it, what is a typical day in the life of crime, okay?
Well, I think a lot of it depends on the area that you work. I think that's a big part of it. For my own experiences, are the Yuba County side of the river. So it's hard for me to speak to the Sutter County side because I'm not over there. But generally speaking, the problems that we have, on one side of the river impact the other side of the river, and they're very similar. The counties are made up in pretty similar fashion. And so you do have issues, for example, certain stores get hit with, petty thefts and shoplifting type crimes. And so you're always trying to address those things. For me, what I look at is trying to track crime trends, crime statistics. And so it's kind of the old New York CompStat model, computer statistics. And what I would like to do is really evaluate what crimes are going on in Sutter County and then how we can better deploy our resources. Now, that one-size-fits-all model doesn't work great, but it gives you an overall picture. And so as an example, you might have one problem down in the South County that impacts people, but it's just one crime. There was a big tire dump down there in Robbins, and that something like that where you get 200 tires dumped off in somebody's orchard, that's a pretty significant thing that impacts that community, even though it's one crime. And so you can't always say that the high crime areas are the ones that have the greatest impact. So you have to find a balance there. But certainly, theft-related type things, drug-related issues, those are things that impact our community. And then probably in addition to that, we want to make sure that we're providing good safety at our schools. And the problems with those can vary, but social media has become a big challenge for us because things will go out on social media, there'll be a threat towards a student, and then you've got to backtrack it, from where it came, and there's a lot of interviews involved in that, and it takes up a lot of time. And so one of the things that's on my action plan is my community response team. And so all those challenges that I just kind of laid out, what I want to do is I want to develop a team that is made up of sworn and non-sworn personnel. I'd like to involve code enforcement because I think they have a big role in certain aspects of crimes, whether they're tire dumps or marijuana compliance or whatever it is. Code enforcement really is kind of the tip of the spear on that, even though the sheriff's department, those are where the calls get generated. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have the flexibility to go out and just be available to the community. And so if there's a challenge that comes up on any particular day, we can divert our resources to that. We can work on the problem. And then, I realize we're stomping out fires a little bit, but it gives us time to address it and then start working with the community to build long-term solutions to some of those things. Whether it's a homeless issue or a tire dump issue or a school threat, drug-related issue, we'll have the flexibility to do that, and we won't have to pull somebody out of their beat for 2-3 hours to go work on one of those problems. They'll be able to be out in their areas and still be responsive to the community. And so I think that'll be a big part of, developing things moving forward. But in addition to that, I want to get in there and I want to see what the systems are that the Sheriff's Department has. I know they use something called JLAN, which is very similar to what we use in Yuba County, and be able to run crime trends, crime statistics, and look at how we can better deploy our resources. But again, knowing that sometimes that one crime that's way out here has a bigger impact on the community, and you got to pay attention to those as well.
Now, I heard at the debate that you had on Monday night that you were talking about license plate readers.
Correct.
Now, what's that all about? Because I'm a privacy advocate.
Right.
So, can you elaborate?
Yeah, to the extent that I can. And again, this is one of those conversations I had with the undersheriff. They're in the process of getting certain vehicles outfitted with license plate readers, and as you're driving around, it will read license plates, and it will report back if something is stolen or on a wanted list, and so you'll be able to know that information.
That's just it.
That's it.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you the right to do any type of non-investigative stop. If something, it's no different than me actually running your license plate over the radio to my dispatch. If they come back with confidential information that car is somehow stolen or involved in a crime, you have the ability to make a stop at that point and either increase your suspicion or decrease your suspicion, and then take whatever action's appropriate.
So when a vehicle is out with a license plate reader, is it reading license plates in a 360 degree?
No, I don't know. I don't have complete knowledge of the technology, but I believe it's just the direction of the camera. I don't believe it's 360. It's just what's out in front of your vehicle as you're driving.
Oh, okay. So if he's going down a neighborhood street, is it reading every license plate on the street?
That I don't know.
That's the kind of stuff I'm interested in, because the people still have a right to privacy and to be here or there without Big Brother looking over them. So
no, I certainly understand your point.
Yeah. I don't have a right to know where you are every minute of the day. You see what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
When you get elected, you will be at the Sheriff's Department, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Every minute of the day.
Yeah, probably. It feels that way. No, but I will tell you, just like I've told everybody, my phone number is on all my flyers. It's actually my cell phone. I don't know of anybody who has ever complained about not being able to get a hold of me. Even if I'm, right now, if I'm in work and I'm in a meeting or something like that, I will call back on my lunch break, or I'll wait till at the end of my workday, and I go home and spend about an hour returning phone calls, returning emails, and so I'm very responsive in that regard.
So I would like to just go into a little bit of what our conversation was prior to the radio program. And I think it's, you guys all know that I'm a TIP volunteer, which is the trauma intervention program here in the Yuba Sutter area. And we're very, very fortunate to have that group here.
Thanks to Lou.
Yep. Our guy, Lou Benninger, Yuba Sutter's most valuable citizen. Everybody knows that, right? So on Thursday, I was on call, and I actually got a call into Live Oak and went up to Live Oak, and it was a very unique situation. I'm not going to go into it, but it dealt with a pervert. And so Friday night at the headquarters, we had the opportunity to host a party for Brandon Barnes. And I told him a little bit about the situation and how impressed I was with the deputy and how professional he was, how compassionate he was, how warm he was, how engaged he was. I didn't obviously say any names, but after the conversation with Captain Barnes, I had a conversation with another officer, and he informed me that that deputy was going to YOLO, that he was going to Woodland, that he was leaving us. And it was very upsetting to me because I don't understand why we aren't the county where people are trying to apply, where people want to live, where people want to work, where people want to contribute to their community. And the whole time I was thinking about this, there was a forum on Monday evening that Captain Barnes participated in, and I thought that his closing statement was just a grand slam. And since he is here, rather than me hashing it out, I thought, let's let him talk about it. I just was so impressed. And I think that, people that heard it were just, it left me very hopeful.
Good. Well, thank you. So I think our closing statement was around 2 minutes. Was there any particular part in there that you wanted me to touch on, or just?
I think the deputy sheriffs, the line staff and command.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, again, the men and women that work there, I've had the opportunity to get to know them over the course of this process. But in addition to that, living up in Live Oak and where I've lived for the last 12 years, I've gotten to know a lot of the officers up there. I've seen the struggles that they've gone through and the lack of direction sometimes. They do a tremendous job, and they do a very hard job. But I think there's leadership that's lacking, and I think they're just wanting some direction. They're wanting to know there's vision. They want to know that there's a mission, that there's something that they're fighting for other than just handling calls for service. My expectation is that we are engaged in the community, whether it's on duty, off duty, volunteering your time for service groups or teaching Little League or whatever it is. I think those things speak more about your character and who you are as a person than any background packet that I'll probably ever read. I mean, I'm more interested in getting to know people and understanding what makes them tick. And so, through that, I've just come to know a lot of great men and women that work over there, and I want to be the type of leader that they deserve. And I thought it was just important for me to note that years of service don't always equal years of experience. And, you have two different candidates that have completely different backgrounds in terms of law enforcement. And running a sheriff's department is a unique thing. There's certain things that you have to do as a sheriff that you don't necessarily have to do or be responsible for as a chief of police. First and foremost is running a jail. And we could get way off into the weeds and talk for the next hour about all the liability that comes with running a jail. But the reality is, after prison realignment, some of those people that are serving longer sentences are now serving them at the county level. County jails are only designed for incarceration, or at least they used to be, for up to a year. And so, mental health facilities, medical facilities, and being able to provide the proper level of care is a challenge because you just don't have the space, and you're not used to providing that advanced level of care that for prolonged, incarceration. And so understanding that, knowing how to make some changes to protect the county from liability is an important part of that. Additionally, rural patrols, being in charge of the courts, being in charge of your civil division, being in charge of your waterways, search and rescue, coroner's division. These are all things that are unique to a sheriff's department, but they're the things that I've spent the last 23 years either doing and or supervising. And so, I have no doubt in my mind that I'm the most qualified person to be our next sheriff. And, I hope the voters will see it that way as well come November. And I believe, as we've stated, the department sees it that way. The Deputy Sheriff's Association, the undersheriff, the sheriff, they all see it that way. And so I hope that, carries some weight with our community and that they'll take the time to research. And I think I said that night, I'm very proud that we have an educated community. I don't think anybody's just phoning in their vote. People take their time and they do their research and they understand who all the candidates are in all the races. And I'm very thankful for that because I think that plays to my benefit. And so Yuba Sutter voters they're smart.
So I got another question for you. As far as the general overall picture, okay, as far as society is concerned, okay, it seems like there's an ever-increasing police state coming forward. And when I say that, I don't mean just police departments or the sheriff's departments, but the whole government apparatus, okay? And have you thought about that as far as where society needs to go to reduce that? Because, it can be done. Have you given any thoughts onto the big picture like that? And what kind of changes need to be made in society to bring things back into line?
Well, I think a lot of it starts with a lot of the political climate at the national level. I think we need to get back to being able to have conversations and understand each other's, positions. I've met someone through this process who is a Democrat and votes that way. And we occasionally will meet for coffee, and we have some of the best conversations. We don't always agree, And when we leave the table, we don't agree, but we sit down like civilized people and we have good conversations and we respect each other and we respect each other's position. And I think if you start seeing more of that at the national level and people just, coming out in support of not just law enforcement, but support of humanity and what's right and just doing the right thing and just being a dignified person, I think that'll start to change. Globally, there's a lot of challenges. I mean, you can look at Chicago, you can look, across the nation and see that not everybody has a good working relationship with their local law enforcement, their local emergency services. I believe here in Sutter County and in Yuba County, we do. I think generally speaking, we get the support of the community. And so want to continue to build upon that, which is why back to, my action plan, some of my programs, being engaged in the school, being out walking our neighborhoods and getting that face-to-face contact with people and actually hearing what their concerns are in their community, I think that goes a long way to just building that relationship and building trust. Now, the flip side of that is training. I mean, we have to make sure that our officers are well-trained and that they understand the expectations and that they're going to be held accountable to a certain standard. And again, I will bring that. I've done that throughout my career. I've always been fair and firm. And, there's been occasions where I've had to take corrective action with somebody, but the next day, we come in and we have a conversation and we go back to the business of doing business. And, that's just part of it. That's just part of good leadership and running an organization.
Now, like Liz, I had an encounter one time with a Yuba City police officer. My kids, this is back in the 80s.
Okay.
We're riding a little go-kart up and down the street, and someone called the cops, right? So the officer came to the door and told us we couldn't run up and down the street with a go-kart.
Okay.
But he did it in such a fashion that was, very nice.
Respectful.
Okay. Yeah. And it was a done deal. Okay. So we appreciate that kind of a peace officer. Okay. So how do you deal with or get rid of the thug mentality? Because we have that, we've seen that too. Okay. And how do you keep your officers from becoming jaded and picking up a thug mentality?
Okay. So that's kind of a big issue. It's a big, broad spectrum because everybody reacts to things differently. So I guess I'll start with your first comment. Community policing, in your encounter with the officer, much like Liz's, that's what we strive to do. But it's also a stressful job, and things happen along the way, and maybe you're working a graveyard shift and you only got 3 hours sleep because you just can't sleep during the day, and then you have to come in and maybe you're grumpy, so you have to look at all these other factors, and you have to provide resources, guidance, and perhaps even counseling for those people that need it. And so, having good, strong mental health is just as important as having good physical health. And so we need to be able to provide those programs to our officers and, have those spot check trainings where we're focused on things like that. Public safety and community service, that starts at the top. And so I'm going to provide that. Those other little things that officers encounter throughout the course of their life that might impact their behavior when they come to work, we have to give them the tools to manage that. I mean, I cited early on, I went through a divorce. That's stressful for anyone. You're going through that. There's financial implications with that. You're trying to be a good parent throughout that process. That puts a lot on you in addition to having a stressful job. And so for folks that go through that, they have to be able to manage that and continue to move forward. And we have to support them through those times and give them the tools to do that so that all of those encounters and experiences are the ones like you guys have encountered. And then if they're not, we need to get to the root of what the problem is, whether it's a training issue or something in their personal life, and try to make those officers better.
What about if you're encountering, a little bit too much fraternization among employees? Like Deputy Dog is sleeping with so-and-so.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Those are real issues.
Yeah. Well, it's not uncommon for people in this profession to, develop relationships with other people that are from this profession because they understand it, right? And they know what you're going through. And so that's not uncommon. What you have to look to is your policies and to make sure that those are not being violated. So certainly none of that should be happening on duty, obviously. And if that is, then you take corrective action. Corrective action can lead up to discipline if it's a repeat thing. And so you always try to start with whatever the most appropriate level of intervention is, whether it's a verbal counseling or a written counseling. But, knowing that if it's something more egregious, it can lead to disciplinary action. And so you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. But at the same time, you have to set the example. You have to be the one that people look to and model themselves after. And, I've had that for the last 12 years with Sheriff Steve Durfer. I mean, he's a man of high integrity, and he always set the bar, and you knew what the expectations were. And so if you modeled yourself after him, you had no problems. He had always said, we have our mission statement and our core values listed on the wall in the Sheriff's Department. And he always told me when I was out in the field as a supervisor, he says, if you don't ever know the decision or the answer to a decision that you need to make, look at the core values. And if you can meet that, even if you're not 100% correct with policy, I will back you because you're meeting our mission and what I expect of you. And so policies can be complex. They can be long sometimes, and it's not uncommon to make mistakes. But if you're meeting the intent of the mission and your core values are good, then you should have the support of your administrator. And that's what I learned from him. And so he was a good role model.
When the few encounters I've had with him, I left with the impression that the man was very disciplined.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
So I never left with a bad impression.
Well, Sheriff Durfer just looks fit. I mean, I want a deputy in front of me that can leap a tall building or at least a fence.
You want Superman.
Yeah. Well, I think we have Captain America sitting right in front of us.
Got one right across from us, yeah.
Well, I will tell you this. I mean, I made a commitment when I went to the police academy back in 1994 that I'm going to stay in shape for my entire career because, you never know when you're going to be in a fight. Fighting somebody for a minute or more is physically exhausting. When I teach classes at the college, I always talk and I say, okay, where are my MMA fighters? And, you always have one or two that raise their hand. And it's like, how hard is it to fight for 3 minutes? And they're like, oh, it's exhausting. How long do you have to train to be able to do that? Hours, right? And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, body images are tough. And what I always say is, I'm 46 years old. I don't look like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I do something every day physically, and I work out, and I try to, maintain that so that if I'm ever in that situation, I'll be able to respond appropriately, and that's just part of it. And so, again, that's setting the standard for everybody else in the organization. And I'm glad to see now that, a lot of departments are coming around to wellness and health programs and teaching people how to eat properly because, I'll be the first to raise my hand. When I worked graveyard for the better part of like a year and a half, at 4 a.m., the hot tacos over at Jack in the Box were the best thing you could get. But they're terrible. But at 4 in the morning, it was great, right? And so, but you can't eat that way. Maybe it works when you're in your 20s, but as you get older, you have to make more sensible choices. And so I'm glad to see departments are actually taking an investment in, the mental well-being, the physical well-being, and providing, those services for us now.
Well,
I'm not totally out of questions, but I'm out for the minute.
But you know how to get a hold of me, though. So.
Yeah. Oh, I'm emailing you. Yes.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely. I still have a video I have to go home and finish watching that you emailed me, so I have homework.
Well, we want to see what's the best for the people, So I was going to ask you if you're elected,
when?
Elected.
Yeah, I'm thinking you are, but I'll wait till the vote is counted. Okay, but have you considered a constitutional class for your deputies or for your staff?
Yeah, so I know that Tammy teaches one, and it was something that when my schedule frees up a little bit more, I want to be able to look at. I don't know if she has a condensed version of that's maybe a 2-hour class, 4-hour class, but it's certainly a conversation I want to have with her. Because the more knowledgeable we are, the better the decisions are that we're going to make when we're out there. And all of our search and seizure, the case law that we've developed, there's a book that's probably 5-6 inches thick on case decisions specific to search and seizure, and that all circles back to the Fourth Amendment. And so I want to make sure that everybody has a good foundation and a good map to, look to, much like we were talking about, those mission statements and those core values on the wall. If you can look to that and know that you're making the right decision and it meets within that framework, then you're good. And the Constitution's the same way.
I'll bet you if I was to look through that 6-inch book, I can find a lot of things that violate the Fourth Amendment. So
Yeah, that case law is.
that case law program is, that's kind of how we ended up getting where we are today.
Holding slaves was case law at one point.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I will just give you the perspective of, our forefathers, we have challenges now that they didn't anticipate. I mean, whether it's, say a canine going around a vehicle and smelling narcotics and giving you the right to search that vehicle. Well,
Boy,
they
that's always been sketchy in my mind, Brandon.
I know it has been, Tom, because we've had that conversation. But they weren't thinking about vehicles and drug runners and those types of things when they were penning the Constitution. And so things evolve, and that's where those case decisions come from. They're interpretations of the law as it was written. And so whether you agree with them or not,
opinion.
Yeah, from the law enforcement perspective, that's where we go to look for the answers sometimes. But you're right. I mean, having a good fundamental constitutional class would be effective, and I would certainly support that.
And she does have a condensed version.
Okay, good. Yeah, I hadn't had a chance to talk to her. I'm sure she's probably listening.
6
so.
hours.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can establish your core values, just like you talked about what's on the wall there in the sheriff's department in Yuba County, your mission statement. If you can establish your core values as the People's Bill of Rights, and then delineate from there, at least you will have a good foundation. Because it's critical to maintain our Bill of Rights. And it's just like I asked you earlier, about the license plate readers.
Right.
I don't have the right to know where you are every minute of the day. And then, of course, you always hear that argument, well, if you don't have anything to hide, what are you worried about? That is a BS argument, okay? It holds no water. Now, it's like me saying to you, okay, you come home tonight and you find me in your living room at your coffee table looking through all your files, okay? But you have nothing to hide. Is it going to sit well with you? Absolutely not.
Probably not, but I will tell you, if you wanted to run outside and jot down my license plate, I have no concerns.
Yes. Right.
So
anyway, I'm a watchdog for the people and for the Bill of Rights.
For the Bill of Rights.
You betcha. So I think we have to continue that watchdog program. So I'm going to always be advocating for that, and I'm thanking God for the guys that advocated long before me, or we wouldn't be living this wonderful American dream that we're living right now.
I would agree with that.
So we are coming to the close of our time with Captain Brandon Barnes, and
we snuck him in for an extra 15
I know
minutes.
I don't think he even
Sorry,
noticed.
Jen.
Yeah, he's on his way. He's on his way. Anyhow, just so grateful for you and your service, and
Thank
for your dedication to service. We all have endorsed you,
Thank you.
and I don't think that's any secret, right?
Nope, I've got his sign on my fence.
Mm-hmm. So thank you again for your time, and I hope folks really do their homework. You are the most qualified candidate.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And just please know, I mean, I'm not, after this radio program, I don't go home and sit on the couch. I'm out working every day. My goal is always to do something every day to make myself and my campaign better. And it'll be the same, when I get into office. And I actually had a conversation with somebody, and they said, we have no doubt that when you get into office, you're going to be the same way that you are now, because we can tell that's just how you're driven. And that will absolutely be the case. We're going to make things better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later, Brandon.
Thank you, sir.
Check out the Territorial Dispatch. Papers are weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch which features local news and events for the Yuba Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
My name is Mark Boomgarden, and I believe in hard work, honesty, American values, and service to the community. Those are the values that have guided me in a lifetime of serving Yuba City as a firefighter, fire chief, businessman, and community volunteer. Those are also the values that have led me to run for council. This is not about fame, climbing the political ladder, or for money. At least, it's not for me. That is why I will not accept any benefits and will donate 100% of my city council pay to local charities. I will tackle wasteful spending, make fighting crime a top priority, bring new focus to dealing with the growing homeless problem, ensure better disaster preparedness, and invest in fixing our roads and water infrastructure. This is our city, yours and mine, so I will always listen and be accessible to you. That's why I've put my personal phone number on all of my campaign material. To learn more, visit markboomgarden.com. That's Mark with a C, Boomgarden with 2 O's and 2 A's. This is Mark Boomgarden, and I approve this message.
Hi, my name is Stacy Brookman, and I formally request your vote for a seat on the Yuba City City Council. I am a longtime resident of Yuba City, a retired deputy sheriff, and a local small business owner. If elected to the council, there are several items on which I will place my focus. They are economic development, maintaining proper public safety staffing levels, providing solid leadership to our city employees, continuing on the path to a solution of the homeless issue, cleaning up our rivers, and addressing the looming PERS bubble. We currently have a council that is divided, and it has been made clear this division is not good for the city. As a council member, I give you my word that I will work hard to establish solid working relationships with not only the other members of the council, but other members of the community as well. To do this, I will start day one by showing respect. Respect for the city, respect for city employees, respect for the other council members, and most of all, respect for the community. Please remember to demand respect on November 6th and place your vote for Stacy Brookman.
We are back. You know, Santos, we miss Jason, but man, you're good.
Yeah, you need to just interject whenever the moment strikes you.
Okay, I'll jump in.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah, you're doing a great job in there.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, big shoes to fill here.
I like Mark Boomgarden's commercial where he says he establishes his name. He says Mark with a C, and then he gives 2 O's and 2 A's for Boomgarden. You know, so I like that. I think it's important that you have proper spelling. I mean, I looked at an advertisement the other day online for, I think it was for the state Senator Neilsen. And they had so many spelling errors in there, you know. So I like the fact that he puts that out there. You know what I mean? That and gives, we need proper spelling, proper grammar, and words. Words are important.
Words matter.
Yes, words matter.
So yes, Mark Boomgarden, we've joked that he has more vowels than any other human being, I think, around here. And also the other important spelling is, of course, for our friend John Missler, who is going to be the write-in candidate.
A good constitutional minded county supervisor.
Investigative reporter.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, guys, I think Jason's ears must have been burning. He must have heard us talking about him because he is on the phone here.
Right.
Jason, do you read us?
Hey, guys.
Oh,
Happy birthday, Jason.
We have to sing happy birthday again.
We got you guys on speaker.
Okay.
Hello, yeah, we just finally have service again. We've been all over this state, and we just now pulled in a park, and we haven't been able to listen to you at all. So
Oh, you didn't hear us sing happy birthday to you 3 times? Okay, let's do it again.
No.
No.
So you're out gallivanting around the state.
We did find out something interesting, though.
Do tell.
What's that?
on a 2-lane road, Tammy's speed limit is 140 miles an hour. She doesn't want to go any faster.
Excellent.
Okay, so she takes it easy then. Okay.
Yes. Allegedly, if he ever goes that fast, allegedly, I would be very scared at 140.
So we're going to talk about a situation that happened yesterday. Jason and Tammy have called in because there was a group of us that walked yesterday for Dave Shaw, but as we were gathering, we had been made aware earlier in the week that John Buckland was going to be having a basically clearing the air type of coffee meeting.
Like a press conference.
Well, I think it was, I think that there is some misinformation out there.
No, I wasn't there. I was working yesterday to pay my bills. Mm-hmm. But
So Jason actually was very interested in what clearing the air looked like.
it was an advertised event, though, right?
It was,
It was held in a public place.
yeah, but it was, I think that there were some invitations that went out. I don't think that Jason was invited, but Jason got wind of it and wanted to be in attendance. And so I think now that he's on the line, we're going to let him pick it up from there.
Well, rightfully so, too, to be in attendance, because that's what we do is keep an eye on what the people that are public servants are speaking about.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Jason.
All right, can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what happened is we were going to go to walking for Dave Shaw. We found out about his event going to be going on at 9 o'clock. So I said, well, I want to go. And I said, what I'd really like to get to the bottom of was his whole going to the Kings game with Republic Services, and then 14 days later, voting to go out to bid with Republic Services.
Oh, no, that was a year. That was a year,
was
wasn't
kind
it?
of interesting, and I wanted to put that to bed. And and so I went. Very nice. I got to talk to some people before we got started. They were interested in what I did, and I told them, Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight. Then we got talking about construction and things like that. So it was pretty interesting. I met a lot of nice people.
So what was the
Well,
venue,
not a lot.
Jason?
There was 7 there. There was 7, including myself there to listen to John.
And his wife and his daughter, so that means there's only 4 there, right?
Okay. Well, no, I wasn't counting them. So there was maybe that was it. I don't remember. There was 2 sitting next to me, one to my right, 2 to my left. So 4. So 5 were there that weren't related to him, apparently.
Stand up, sit down, fight, fight, fight.
Okay. So, anyways, talked a little bit, and then he went into his little speech and his little spiel, and talked about recology and what was going on with recology and how he was, doing this bid was saving the city money. So I did ask him. I said, well, weren't we going to be a better rate with being part of that whole conglomeration of the other cities around, like Live Oak and Yuba County and just all those? And he said, oh, no, we never left that. We haven't left that yet. And I said, well, I heard that we had, so that's something, that we need to put to bed, because I heard that we left that, so that's going to leave us open to be, get a larger rate on our end. No, we never left that. We haven't voted to leave that.
So for the viewers, this is, or listeners, this is a garbage service,
Yeah.
right, that we're talking about.
So, and we've got counties and cities that are all conglomerated together, like Live Oak and Marysville and Yuba County and Sutter County and Yuba City and Sutter and then Wheatland are all part of this group. Well, Yuba City chose to leave the group, is what we've been informed, was that they left the group. So now we're out on our own bid, so we won't be able to bid as a full unit. So that being said, he said that wasn't the case, so we'll do some research and figure that one out. But then what I found really interesting is he said, well, we're going to get to what you want to get to here in a minute. So I let him talk, and still was letting him talk. And so finally he got to what I wanted to get to about the vote 14 days before. He went to the basketball game and then then went to vote to open up to Republic Services to get their bid from them. And I asked him, I said, John, I said, you went to this basketball game, and somebody in the group, I believe it was his daughter. I do not know that it was his daughter, but it was somebody who was very connected with him, stood up and called me, what was the name? An antagonistic. I'm an antagonist, and I'm antagonistic.
Had you been talking with Stan there?
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Jason, because I've been labeled irritant, so you're antagonist.
I know, well, that was the thing, is I couldn't remember what she said, and it was antagonistic because I thought it was irritant, but I knew that was yours. So it could have been irritant.
Don't steal my thunder, man. Okay.
So, no, I went steal thunder. I'm an antagonist. You're an irritant.
Just a plain old irritant.
Hey, we're going to have the whole conglomerate of everybody here in a minute getting labeled. So, but on top of that, I was a bully. And what was interesting is I got fired on. This lady literally got up, came across the table, and was in my face, yelling at me that I was there to bully, there to be an antagonist. And I hadn't said 2 words. Literally, hadn't said 2 words to John other than, hey, how's it going? And had a little bit of small talk, and everything was fine. And I was shocked. I was amazed. I was actually a little, I wouldn't say intimidated, but it was really weird because I've never been attacked like that in public before by somebody. And then John's wife turned on me and started attacking me, going, your dates are wrong about that. That was a year apart. You need to check your dates. And I said, ma'am, I said, I have them right here. I said, I've got the date that John posted on Facebook that he was doing Sweet Time with Republic Services. And it was a screenshot of his actual Facebook page. And then I had the date that it went to the city for their vote, and it was a 3-2 vote with the trash trio voting for it. And it was 14 days later. And I had these papers, so I handed a few out and left the rest of them on the table and gave John one. And I said, you can dispute it all you want and tell me it's a year apart, but I said my dates aren't wrong because I downloaded them from the city website and from your Facebook page.
So basically,
what a bully.
He didn't like being called on the carpet.
No, he didn't like being called to the mat at all.
Jason?
What I find is so after I got fired on by John's wife and apparently maybe his daughter, I still don't know whether that was the case or not, who it was. But after I got fired on by her and then this lady and then John's wife, and then John fired at me a little bit, but not too bad because he was too busy trying to control his group of people, his 2 people in his group, and he wasn't doing a very good job. I mean,
they were bullies.
I don't know, but if I was the councilman and my wife went after somebody who was there to get a message across,
you mean a voter?
If anybody in my camp was to do that while I was councilman, I would be very embarrassed and very just couldn't believe that they couldn't hold their tongue back until at least I got my input in. But he could not keep them, from just being vicious. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And what was interesting is I handed these out to the people, and the people were kind of making their own decision, I think. But it didn't look very well is what I'm getting to. Is it was not good to attack, somebody who was there with just to get answers whenever you were having a meeting on setting the record straight, as it were.
Yeah. Okay. So, that kind of reinforces my thought process that I've been having for quite some time, that when it comes to the public sector employment program, okay, and the gravy train that they're on, okay, that they will do anything to keep that ball rolling.
Well,
so
isn't his wife a county employee also?
I have no idea.
City clerk.
City clerk. Yeah. Oh my.
So
yes, she is the city clerk. So apparently she did have a reason to go off on me because apparently she was at the game also, and was also went to Washington with them and other things. So I didn't get a chance to ask any more questions because I politely excused myself. I said, I'm sorry for being an antagonist.
Did you apologize for being a bully?
I'm not going to get the answers that I came here to get. So I'm going to excuse myself so you can at least go on and talk to the people, because I didn't want to fight with them. I didn't show up to do that. And I told them that. I said, I've not said, I told the lady, I said, ma'am, I have not said 2 words. I said, I'm not here to fight. He was going to set the record straight. This is what I have for the record. I said, the last thing I want to do as part of the Yuba Sutter political spotlight is saying things that are wrong out in public and making people look bad. Now, don't get me wrong. If they need to look bad, I want them to look bad. And apparently John needs to look bad, so we'll keep flying this out there. But the fact is if he said he could set it straight, I was figuring that he was going to set me straight on some way that he didn't go to a game 14 days before a vote and then claim it on his 700 form that it was a donation of $250, okay, or a gift. And my whole thing is there is no way that you can tell me that you're going to take a gift for $250 and not feel beholden to that company, some way, shape, or form. And at the end of it, he got really angry, and he says, you know what, sir? He said, I will go to a basketball game with whoever I want, whenever I want. It is my decision, and I will go whenever I want with whoever I want, and I will make the vote after that if I want to.
So there's some of that.
That's making me laugh, man.
There's some of what the public complains about when they go before the city council about how arrogant they are.
Yeah, he did lose it on me a little bit there at the end and told me that it was his right and he could do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, with whoever he wanted, and then make a vote on it, and there was no conflict of interest or whatsoever.
He didn't meditate.
How dare I ask?
He didn't meditate, did he?
No, he was not. There was no meditation in there, but let me tell you, his wife made Stan look like a pussycat.
Oh wow!
Well, it is his God-given right to say or do what he wants, but
it's our right as voters.
Yes.
The optics on this are horrendous.
To know about it, correct?
For sure.
Yes, exactly.
So I mean, that's just part of the game, right? We're not saying you don't have the right. We're just saying we have the right to shine a light on what you're doing.
The spotlight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Jason had his paperwork.
I want to get out of your guys' hair, but I want to close up with, the fact is if you go to his Facebook page today and look about his meeting yesterday, I'm not on there. There's no mention of what happened between us or anything else. And I just want to tell you all this. It's just like everything else in politics. If it would have been a good thing or a feather in his cap, you can bet it would have been all over Facebook and he would have been patting himself on the back. But being that we're not on there, our discussion's not on there or anything else, I don't think he was favorable and thought it was favorable in his favor to put it out.
It's like everything in the media today. You're not getting the full story. You only get part of the story. Yeah. So.
Well, thank you, Jason. Yeah. I for one am very impressed that you hung in there. You had your facts behind you. When somebody goes in armed with the truth, I think that it can be uncomfortable for people when, you've got the facts, and it sounds like both Mrs. Buckland and Mr. Buckland exhibited behavior unbecoming of both a council member and the city clerk. And, I know that we continued walking, and I felt super bad that you had to go through that. But, as we were walking for Dave Shaw, Dave was very specific on what he wanted the message to get across to the voters. We know we have 3 seats available, and it was a little bit more work, but Dave wanted us to write, if they were not home, that it is time for new leadership.
Chuck Buck can stand.
Mm-hmm. So, thank you.
Well, I can promise you this. If Buckland has a meeting that he has in a public forum, I'm going to go and talk to him and at least be in the crowd, because the fact is this needs to get out there. And if his wife wants to attack me that way, I'm good for it. I mean, it's no sweat off my back. I mean, seriously, I'm sorry, but I can be verbally abused as much as possible. It's not a big deal to me. I mean, I work in construction. My skin is pretty thick.
I think
Just don't bite, and I'm good.
A video would have been good.
You know, that's a good point, Bill. I was thinking about that later, and we had the discussion of, I know that this little, this event took place on the patio at the Bogue Road Starbucks on the corner of Bogue and Garden Highway. I'm just, you know, we could hardly get through the parking lot of that place. The inside of the rest of the coffee shop, I'm sure, was packed. I wonder if Starbucks has any video of the whole interaction.
That would be interesting because I would like everybody to see the lady who came across at me and got in my face, because that was, let me tell you, one thing that I'll tell you my dad always told me to say to a woman whenever she was doing something that made her look very unbecoming. He said, you know what, just tell her that's not very ladylike and see if that gets her attention. And whenever I said that, you could see this lady's face just turn beet red.
So you told her she wasn't acting ladylike?
Bully.
So it's one of those things. You just tell them, you know what, that's not very ladylike. It usually gets the response you're looking for. Because you're hinting at the point that maybe you're not a lady.
So you're out and about in the great state of California?
He's in an undisclosed area.
No, I'm in Reno. I'm waiting to get to the crab table, but you guys are holding
the same thing.
Okay.
Well,
hey, enjoy your birthday, dude.
We hope Lady Luck is on your side. How's that?
What's that?
We hope Lady Luck is on your side.
Oh, there's no luck to it. Craps is an honest living.
Have fun.
Goodbye, guys.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
So we did have a couple forums this past week in Yuba City, and one was on Monday night with Congressman Garamendi and his the guy that's opposing him in the election,
Charlie Schaupp.
Yeah, Charlie Schaupp, the farmer from Esparto, and then we also had Brandon Barnes and Dennis Hauck faced off that night too, and this was at River Valley?
River Valley.
Yeah, high school. And then we also had on Wednesday night we had it was Senator Jim Neilsen faced off against a guy named Kim. That was his last name, and then we had Assemblyman Gallagher face off against a lady, East Indian lady from Chico, lived in Chico.
Sonia Aery, is that her name?
Could be. I don't remember her name. But anyway, we're going to go to break here pretty soon, right?
Yeah, do you guys want to go now?
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Get out of the way?
We'll
And then
talk about
come
that
back.
when we get back.
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, Sutter County, vote Val Dillon for Superintendent of Schools.
Hi, I'm Tanya Cartwright, a local elementary teacher and coach of 25 years. I've known Val Dillon for over 20 of those. It's a no-brainer to vote Val on your ballot. She's the candidate with the most education, the most experience, hands down.
I'm Dr. Lori Goodman, Principal Superintendent of Winship Robbins Elementary. I love the direction Val is taking Sutter County schools. Small districts like ours have a real voice now. Dr. Dillon believes in funding and supporting small districts. She is helping us get the most out of every dollar for student success.
I'm Stephanie Pasquale, owner of New Adventures Preschool, Inc. I've known Val for over 20 years. Education continues to be a big part of my life, and I encourage you to vote Dr. Val Dillon for Sutter County Superintendent of Schools.
Vote Val on your ballot.
Paid for by Dr. Val Dillon for Sutter County Superintendent of Schools 2018.
What if you for the very first time had true transparency in government? If I'm elected to the board, and I expect that I will, it'd be my intention that I will be very much involved in the day-to-day operations of the county to a larger degree than I have been even as a watchdog. So let me assure you, the public will know more about their government than they do today.
Okay.
Okay, we are back. Thomas is still getting with the program. He's not used to us being so on time. Just to remind everyone, you are listening to 1410 AM, The Patriot.
And 104.3 FM.
Mm-hmm. And
the same Patriot.
The same Patriot. And you're listening to us live out here on Mount Hoot. And if Tammy's still listening out there in Radio Land, I took care of the fishies.
Hey, you know what? I just want to say that I drove to Maxwell the other day, and I could hear this station all the way in Maxwell.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Ooh. Yeah.
That's a good range.
Yeah. And then I've been in Linda where I couldn't hear it.
Right.
You know?
I could hear it in Colusa fine.
Yeah, so you never know.
I'll climb the tower and put another coat hanger up there and sort of aim it
yeah. Okay.
So before we get started with our last half hour, a reminder to our listeners that we have our Constitutional Republican headquarters at 441 Bridge Street, Suite E, in the Cookie Tree Plaza.
Very nice facility.
We have signs for most of the local Republican candidates, and it's also the Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight headquarters, so we have signs for those declined to state, like Brandon, who was just here.
We have, I think I saw some no on K, is that correct?
No on K, we have no on K. If you want some yes on 6, you have to vote yes on 6 to repeal the gas tax. It's a little bit confusing, but just remember, yes on 6 will reduce our gas prices significantly.
And our DMV fees.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And what are the hours of the headquarters?
5 to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Monday through Saturday.
Monday through Saturday.
Okay.
And we have events. There's an event on Wednesday.
Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, I believe.
And how do the people tune into those events? I mean, to find out the calendar of events.
Facebook,
Yuba Sutter Political Spotlight on Facebook.
Okay. Because I'm not a Facebook guy, but most people
Sutter
are.
Yuba CR or YubaSutterCR.com. That's a Constitutional Republicans head website, and there's a calendar there. Lou will get it out to Lou on Saturday, and
now in Yuba County, this Measure K, they want to up the sales tax another 1%. Okay,
another penny,
and they're spreading all kinds of lies because we've heard them before, right? We're going to fix your roads. I'm gonna mention this too. Driving down Simpson Lane. Okay, I drove down Simpson Lane here to get here today, and I was looking at the shoulder. And what a mess.
Don't drive off the shoulder.
No kidding. But I mean, there's a huge amount of brush down close by the bridge area. And then off the shoulder, I mean, it looks like the Grand Canyon in some places. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, what in the world? So,
I wonder whose district is that?
Okay, so that would be District 1.
And that would be?
Andy
Mr. Vasquez.
Vasquez.
Wonder if he might be able to throw his weight around a little bit and get that shoulder tapered off a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's had a heck of a lot of opportunity.
He has.
Mm-hmm.
So.
People might want to think about voting for Joan.
Oh, speaking of which, that last commercial we ran was John Missler. I don't think he actually said it on the commercial itself, but that was John Missler who's running as a write-in candidate.
Write-in candidate
for
for
the 5th district.
5th district.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
That would be a good, solid vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, back to the Measure K. These guys will never, ever have enough of the people's money. And that's the bottom line.
It never
right?
ends.
I mean, you heard Brandon Barnes earlier saying we need money, okay? When Wendell Anderson was here, we need money. It's always we need money, okay? Well, we all need money, but it's time to quit trying to take it from us.
Well,
You
what
know
we
I
need
mean?
to do is
I'm sure that if I was in their operations, I could get it streamlined.
Yeah,
So
because
if anybody's hearing me and wants some help to streamline your operation and get you within a good budget where you don't need any more of our money, give me a call.
So
I'll help you.
there's some of that open session for public sector unions. Tom will come down and give you some good suggestions on how to save some money.
Yes. And when it comes to that unfunded retirement program, here's the reality. It's going to take cuts, and you're going to have to get aligned with the real world. So the only way you're going to deal with that is cut it.
well, that's what grows around here is government.
Yes.
And if we could shrink some of the government, there would be plenty of money to go towards public safety, fire.
Yes. Now, didn't Brandon show us a little page here that showed social services at the top, right? How many jobs was that? 500 and something jobs in Yuba County.
No, Sutter
County. Excuse me, Sutter County. 500 and something jobs administering the social services program for Sutter County. And that is the welfare program. That's what I call it, the welfare program.
I believe
And
it's
you know-
closer to 600, right, than
was it?
500?
I don't remember, but
You know-
it's out of
I've got a picture of it here.
it's
Yeah, pull
Yeah.
that up. What was striking about that though was the lopsidedness between social services and the peace officers, law enforcement, which was 223.
yeah. So they were well over 500.
506.
Oh,
506 for social services, 146 for sheriff.
So
So
I'm
law
sure-
and order's at the top of their list.
yeah,
and in the law and order, that includes the
Well, we got probation
DA.
and district attorney. That's another 77. So 146 and 77 is
223.
223.
the
Still-
bottom line is this, in my opinion, that the welfare program has to be curtailed. Okay, and I don't mean just those that are on welfare, but and food stamps and the whole 9 yards, rent subsidies, and on 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 it goes. Okay, I mean those that are on welfare that are administering the program. Okay, so it's a double-edged sword there.
Yeah.
So got to cut it back. So
Yeah.
we started with Measure K. Do you want to give them more of your money? That's the question. Now, I saw the people in Marysville foolish enough, okay, to vote in their last
Sales
tax
tax.
increase.
And what was that
Yeah.
for? What was that?
What is it for the roads?
Was that for the roads also?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's for the roads,
Okay.
it's for the water,
yeah.
it's for the air. It's, the air is never clean enough.
We should have
The
election day on
water
Groundhog
is
Day.
always dirty. Every time I take a bath, I have to take a second one just to get clean because the water's so dirty.
Yeah. Hey, a friend of mine had a little sign in her bathroom that said, fresh bath, 25 cents, used 5 cents.
5 cents.
Which one do you choose?
So, Thomas, your wife has a Facebook account.
Yes, she does.
So what
Yes, she
your
couldn't resist.
Yeah, what your homework needs to be is have her pull up the No on Measure K. They have a very comprehensive Facebook page with a lot of information. But basically, the government, they lie. They say we're gonna use it for X, Y, and Z.
I'm shocked.
But really what they're going to use it for, they need more money to fund their own pensions.
That's right.
And raises.
Yeah.
They give themselves raises
Yeah.
too.
The first order of business for
Right.
government is to compensate themselves.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So they want your money to further their welfare system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Because they're on the welfare program too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Some people get to do absolutely nothing on the welfare program, and some do a little. So they're on the we do a little welfare program.
Yep.
That's the way I read it.
So no on K and yes on 6.
Yes on 6, yes.
Yes to repeal.
Mm-hmm. Let's take, the gas tax, rip-off program. I think it's in the, billions? How many billions was it? Almost 50 billion that they're extracting from us.
Right.
And
some of the worst roads are
Yeah.
in Sacramento, the very city where all this money goes to. Have you driven through any of those roads in Sacramento lately? I'm talking about I-5, 99.
I can't make it out of Marysville or Yuba City.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
You have to dodge potholes, and that's where all that money is going to. So if they can't even fix the roads in Sacramento,
no,
it's
and they've been taking it for 100 years.
Yeah, exactly.
100 years. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand how some states and, their tax and license on their vehicles is $50.
Now, I just got back from a trip to Oregon, okay? Went up into northeastern Oregon not last week, but the week before. Saw some real cowboys up there. Had a nice time, but I'm going to tell you this. When I hit the state of Oregon, the highways, a lot better maintained, okay? And I really detest that 55-mile-an-hour speed limit, okay? But I was in certain parts of Oregon now, and they have upped their speed limit, which is it's about time, So the vehicles that we have today, if I'm going to use Brandon Barnes' argument, have evolved.
Mm-hmm. So, well, yours sure have, Thomas.
Yeah.
Gee whiz, I mean.
But, I can't drive 55.
You can't?
No.
Who are you?
No.
Sammy Hagar?
And I'm pretty conservative driver, but it was good to be on those roads and be able to do 65.
And it was smooth sailing.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
So, but I went into Idaho for a little while too, and you could see the difference. So Idaho's roads were not as well as Oregon's roads.
Right. Well, Jason and Tammy will be able to verify this. The same thing with Nevada. You drive up 80, once you get east of Yuba Gap, roads just in California are almost like cobblestone. But as soon as you hit the Nevada state line, they just smooth right out.
Yes. Yep. And there's a 80-mile-an-hour speed limit.
In Nevada there is?
Yes.
Sweet.
In the
on
desert.
I-5, coming toward Reno.
Sounds like Texas.
Yeah.
Everything in Texas is 75.
On Interstate 80.
Okay.
Yeah. You can go 80 on 80.
Beautiful.
Nice.
So, when it's 80, everybody does 90, right?
Right.
So, anyways, Thomas, you had a front row seat to the forum on Monday night. You talked about that. And then also Wednesday night. I could not attend the Wednesday night forum. I would have liked to. I had a planning commission meeting for Sutter County.
So, I'm glad you brought me back to that. And it was a very good debate at River Valley High School with John Garamendi and Charlie Schaupp. And really, I'm trying to get a pulse of the demographic, when I'm at some of these events. And there is a lot of support for what I would call the socialist agenda.
Resist.
Yes. So there were some. I guess there were some signs there saying resist. I didn't see those myself.
At River Valley High School, and then the other one was at Yuba City High School.
Yes.
And there were resist signs.
Bill, you saw some signs that said resist
at
Garamendi's
thing.
Yeah. So it was a good back and forth debate with Garamendi and Charlie Schaupp, and Charlie Schaupp did an excellent job.
80s lunch.
Yes, he in my opinion, he ruled the roost there that night.
Well, the problem is our district was gerrymandered and is not reflective of us now. That includes Solano and Yolo counties, and it's next to impossible. And that was by design.
But how could that be? It's an independent committee that does that. They're just all independent Democrats.
I did not know what gerrymandering was until a while back, because I finally decided I got to find out what this is.
Mm-hmm.
So for the people, gerrymandering is when they adjust the boundaries in a fashion that's going to be politically expedient for a certain party.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we've seen gerrymandering going on all over California.
Yeah, because before the redistricting, that was a Republican stronghold, conservative, so they had to fix that.
Yeah, and they fixed it.
Yeah, they fixed it all right.
So then we had the debate with Dennis Hauck and Brandon Barnes on the same night after the other two guys spoke. And I thought Brandon Barnes did an excellent job. And
can you thumbnail the differences between them?
Experience.
Well, mainly, I think they talked about experience more than anything, and their plan, and nobody really got into the kind of meat that I like to talk about. Which would be the constitutional issues and stuff like that. So, but as far as experience for the job and stuff like that, I think Brandon Barnes definitely showed that at that debate, and I think he's the better guy for the job out of those two. But then we went to I went on Wednesday night to Gallagher and Neilsen, and man, it blew my hair back, okay, because listening to Neilsen, and I even gained more respect for Neilsen that night, because he was solid on his answers, okay? But the guy that was against him, his name is Kim, a young guy, it was like he was parroting stuff he heard at a college, I mean, that's
a bad sign.
That's kind of the way I read it, and
I doubt that it was Hillsdale College, more like Berkeley.
Yeah. It was. He declared what colleges he went to. I don't remember, but it was the College of Communism, in my opinion.
Aren't they all?
But he was supporting rent controls. He was supporting government housing. He wanted government housing built. He was supporting socialized medicine, and on and on. Now,
sounds like he had every one of the Communist Manifesto points.
Oh, he did. And I asked him after the meeting. Now, during the intermission, I just sat there in my seat because I wanted to just watch the demographic going on. And it seemed to me like I know a lot of those Democrats in the room, right? And I even saw someone that had a shirt on that said the National Socialist Party or something. Something along that line, you know what I mean?
Was it the candidate?
It was not the candidate. But what was interesting to me was that we had Suk Sadhu there, okay? We had Manny, the city councilman, and a lot of the regulars. We had the Democratic Party, local Democratic Central Committee, because I've seen them people there before. And it doesn't matter what your local communist is supporting, they flock to him after during the intermission to chum up with them and be part of that action, I guess. It was very interesting to me.
Demographically speaking, were they mostly young people?
No.
Okay.
There was a few. There was only several young people. Well, no, on his support, I would say it was more about 70-30 split.
Okay.
Maybe 30% young people.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, so then we went from there to Gallagher and his opposition is an East Indian lady from Chico, and I don't remember her name. And the truth of the matter was, when I was, she said she had a master's degree, and her parents were in the insurance business, and so she's following them in the insurance business, and she gave some little soft stories about how she cares for the people. But we have at these debates, you always have a timekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
And so the timekeeper holds up your 30 seconds left, 15 seconds, and time's up. Well, I don't think that she was totally ill-prepared, not able to, she said many times, I don't know anything about that subject, or I can't speak to that subject. And it was you could tell it was a great relief for her, for that timekeeper to say time's up, because she had a hard time putting sentences together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's my honest evaluation of the matter. And I actually sat down by James Gallagher in the beginning when I was listening to Kim, and I asked him, I leaned over and said, is this the kind of people that you're dealing with every day in the assembly down there? And he shook his head, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean to tell you, I just was shaking my head back and forth. I could not believe the communist-type answers. And Tasha, she kept looking back at me and smiling, thinking she knew I was blown away. But I was blown away. But Gallagher, he did an excellent job too, and talking about the issues, and he was on target as far as he knew what he was talking about. And at one time he did say, "Do you want to continue with this democracy or have mob rule?" Okay, but the reality is, mob rule is democracy.
That's right.
Yep.
So I questioned him on that afterwards, just briefly, and he goes, "Yeah, just republic." And I told him, I said, "You got to be careful, James, because you're starting to use the language of the left." And
Speaking of the left, did you see Curtis there?
Curtis was there. He got mad at me again, I believe.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, Curtis, come on!
I don't know. I'm just an irritant sometimes.
Well, what have you been labeled, Bill?
Oh well, I'm just as bad. I'm just as bad.
We're calling Bill the judge now,
the judge,
right? Because remember last week he said no leading the witness.
Santos, have you been labeled?
Oh, I get called all kinds.
He's
of
the
things.
wiki man.
Well, that's positive though. Yeah. I hope everybody recognizes today how well behaved I've been on a certain subject, because I promised, made a commitment that I was not going to speak ill of Brandon Barnes' opponent. And have you noticed?
But we have
I've noticed you've been doing a good job today.
We have to put out a call for help, because Jason has put forth this idea that came from Mrs. Dennis Hauck, that we should send them some Kleenex, boxes of Kleenex on election day, and we've only got 9 boxes down there, and we put out a call for help, people to bring boxes of Kleenex by the Yuba Sutter Constitutional Republican headquarters.
Do you know what my label is? They labeled me.
No, I don't know it.
Let's hear it.
Pure evil.
Pure
nice.
evil.
I like that.
Man.
I like that.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know. Where'd you get that at?
Is that anything like Resident Evil?
And who called you this? Who?
People.
The Haucks.
Oh, they did. Oh, okay. That's very nice.
Hey, so I'm curious, since we got Wikiman engaged here, how did you get that name? Because I don't know, and I'm sure a lot of people want to know.
Well, Lou Benninger, who does the Live with Lou show on Saturday mornings from 9 to noon here on KMOC. Way back when we first started, he would get caught up on a certain abbreviation or something For instance, I remember one of the first ones I remember was USSR. He remembered what the Union of Soviet, but he didn't know what the SR part was.
Socialist
Republics, right, like that. And he kind of caught him off guard. I knew that. I'm not sure why he didn't think I would know that, and he said, "Oh wow, that's is that you get that from Wikipedia or something like that?" And I said, "No, I just knew it. That's all." Anyway, so I'm not sure it's actually a compliment. I think what he thinks is whenever I don't know something, I just kind of. And back then, I don't know if Wikipedia can still do this or not, but back then you could change whatever was on Wikipedia. Anybody could go in and change whatever was on Wikipedia. So I think in his sense of humor, he was trying to suggest that I was just making stuff up. So for the record, I'm more of a DuckDuckGo kind of guy. I don't use
they
Wikipedia.
don't track you on DuckDuckGo.
I don't use Google or Bing.
I need to start doing that, using DuckDuckGo. Yeah. We all do things out of habit, but I'm glad that I finally heard the explanation for that. So I was thinking, something more like Star Wars.
No.
The Wookiee or something.
Okay.
Wookiee man.
Yeah, my hair was down to my shoulders back then.
So the Wiki man refers to Wikipedia. Great,
right?
Great.
Yep.
So
We're so happy that you chose to spend a little bit of your Sunday with us.
Thanks for inviting me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we have spirited discussion.
Yes, you do.
yes. So to finish it out, we hope the people do not vote to further enslave themselves with this Measure K, right? We hope that they will give themselves some more financial freedom by voting yes on 6. And we hope that we will see more engagement in the because like at that one meeting at River Valley High School, they probably had 500 chairs there set out. And what would you estimate, Bill? Probably 90 people there, 80 people, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
The Appeal Democrat said about 100 folks.
About 100, yeah. So they might have stretched it a little.
Yeah, what?
They stretched some things.
It was their function.
Fake news going on there.
By the way, Appeal, you've got a really lousy audio. You need to do something about that. Or you could come talk to us.
Yeah, I work cheap.
But
there you go.
But, it would have been quite a refresher for anybody of any political, position to see all 500 chairs filled. Wouldn't that have been something?
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, just on the side, John Cox is down only by 4 points. So,
wow, that's pretty good.
So Republicans, walkaways, decline to states, independents, libertarians, all those that value your freedom and are tired of all the taxes and regulations and laws and
the margin of error on those things is usually right around 4%,
so
3
get
or 4
out
points.
and vote.
So.
Get out and vote Republican. This help is on the way.
Let's try and get off the plantation.
Get off the plantation, exactly.
All right, see you later.
God bless everybody.